When I woke, the room was dim. I checked the time. It was still early morning. But the darkness came not from the hour. Thick curtains covered the windows. I opened them. Outside, the day was already bright. For a moment, the place felt unfamiliar. Then I remembered where I was. The room at Mike Lee's residence on Yahma. The room assigned to me during the job. Last night, when I arrived, it had looked as though a garden stretched beyond the terrace. In daylight, I saw that the ground was paved with tile. A few shrubs grew there. Beyond them lay sand. Several cargo robots moved slowly across it. The night before, I had started work in the virtual room. I finished preparing the environment and launched the update program. If everything had completed correctly, I would only need to finish the remaining setup this afternoon. The client's inspection requests could mostly be handled remotely later. I planned to deal only with the items that required an on-site response. Until afternoon, there was nothing to do. I washed, dressed, and ordered breakfast. The staff had told me that all meals were served through room service. The breakfast was brought not by a robot, but by a young woman. Bread, hot drinks, eggs, fruit. At her suggestion, I ate outside on the terrace. The sunlight was harsh, but a deep awning cast shade over the space. Cool air flowed from hidden vents. The heat was manageable. I searched for places to visit nearby. Several daytime programs appeared. Camel rides, desert tours and off-road vehicles. Hot air balloon flights over the dunes. Mostly outdoor activities. But I was here for work. It felt wrong to spend the client's money on sightseeing. I searched instead for smaller places to visit. Local landmarks. Shops. Cafes. There was nothing. As I kept reading, I began to understand something about Yahma. People here did not wander outside to browse shops or fine restaurants. They did not go out simply to see what was there. Everything was ordered in advance. Goods were delivered. Meals came with hired cooks. Entertainment worked the same way. People arranged things privately, either at home or at locations prepared beforehand. It did not seem like a life suited to people without patience or planning. I opened the estate map on the room terminal. So far, I had only entered 2 places, my guest room and the virtual room. The virtual room was beneath the main house. The basement and 3rd floor of the house belonged to Mike Lee and his family. Those areas required special authorization and strict access times. Beyond that, the estate spread across a vast area filled with separate buildings. Many facilities were open to guests like me. There were pools, tennis courts, spas, a movie theater, even a zoo and an amusement park. In the end, the morning disappeared while I wandered the grounds, looking into whichever buildings caught my attention. Outside, the sunlight was fierce. The heat pressed hard against the skin. Small shaded rest areas stood here and there along the paths. Cold drinks had been left inside them. I would sit for a while, cool down, then walk again. The amusement park was small. A carousel, a coaster, a miniature train. It reminded me of the traveling fairs that used to come near my home when I was a child. My parents had taken me once or twice. A woman rode the coaster with a small boy, perhaps 5 years old. I wondered if they were related to the staff, or guests like me. At one of the rest areas outside the park, someone was already sitting there. A young man, maybe in his early 20s. He wore a pale green tank top and wiped sweat from his face while drinking a carbonated drink. We exchanged a few words. He had arrived recently too. He was a professional dancer, he said. Usually he worked with a dance company on another planet. Looking at him more closely, I noticed the economy of his movements, the balance in the way he carried himself. He and several others from his company had been invited here for a month-long performance engagement. I asked if he had met Mike Lee. "I think he was in the audience once," he said. "But I never spoke to him. I'm not even sure which one he was." He seemed generally satisfied with the arrangement. "Though after a month, I'll probably get bored," he said with a relaxed smile. "Some of the others are just happy they can drink here." "And you?" I asked. "I stay away from things that damage the body," he said. "This is my livelihood. Parties like last night's aren't really for me." "There was a party last night. You didn't go?" I told him I had arrived only yesterday. "Ah," he said. "Then you should prepare yourself. It looked intense. I guess that's why the pay is good." He lifted one eyebrow slightly. When I told him the maintenance work was almost done, and I planned to leave that very day, he blinked in surprise. "Oh, really? I thought..." He stopped there. "Sorry, the afternoon work ended without trouble. I reported the results to Rosa and left the estate. In the end, I never met the client himself. I rode back to the airport in a vehicle much like the one that had brought me there. This time it was still daylight, and I watched the desert slowly pass outside the window. In the distance, people rode camels in long lines across the sand. Tourists, perhaps. Or maybe local people traveling the way they always had. Most wore cloth over their faces against the sand. On the way to the airport, a notice appeared on the display. Mechanical trouble. The flight would be delayed by 1 hour. By the time I arrived at the airport, the delay had become 2 hours. More announcements followed. Eventually, the flight was cancelled altogether. A replacement aircraft would arrive the next day. I was rebooked onto a morning flight. A dozen or so passengers had been waiting with me. They shook their heads, complained briefly, then left without much hesitation. Locals, probably. I stood there for a while. Normally, I would have found a hotel, but there were none nearby. It was already late. When I asked the airport staff, they only looked troubled. It seemed I might have to spend the night inside the airport. With no better idea, I contacted Racer. The reply came almost immediately. I could stay another night at the estate if I wished, or they could arrange accommodations near the airport. I asked him to arrange a room and have the company billed later. He said a vehicle would arrive in 30 minutes. The vehicle that came looked sturdier than the usual mobility units. Larger tires, reinforced frame. Soon after leaving the airport, it turned off the road and entered the desert. The sun had nearly disappeared. Behind us, only the airport lights remained. Ahead, dunes rose and fell inside the headlights. I checked the map. Nothing appeared. For 20 minutes we continued through the dark sand. I began to wonder if this was really safe. Then a message appeared. Arrived at destination. The vehicle stopped. Outside, a tent stood several meters away in the darkness. Large enough for several people. Made from pale fabric. A portable light stood near the entrance. It switched on as I approached. Part of the tent glowed faintly. I touched it. The surface felt cool beneath my hand. Slowly, the front of the tent opened. Inside was a mattress with bedding, and a small basket beside it. Simple, but clean. I unloaded my luggage and carried it inside. The basket held bottled drinks and snacks. There was no light inside the tent, so I carried in the lamp from outside. The material of the tent seemed insulated. The air inside was warmer than expected. Still, it was too early to sleep, but there was nothing else to do. For a moment, I wondered if the airport might have been more comfortable after all. I put my outer jacket back on and stepped outside again. With the lamp in hand, I walked a short distance and found another, smaller tent nearby. Inside was a simple bathroom. A shower hung from the ceiling. Warm water flowed when I pressed a pedal. Farther away, scattered lights glowed across the desert. Other tents, perhaps. I could make out faint human shapes moving between them. That made me feel a little easier. After showering and changing clothes, I spread my old clothes over the sand in front of the tent and sat down. The other lights had already gone out. The darkness was unlike anything I had known in the city where I lived. Wind moved across the dunes. Sand shifted softly. Somewhere in the desert, small living things moved in the dark. I pulled my jacket tight around my neck and raised the hood. Even without goggles, the sky was crowded with stars. The longer I looked, the more appeared. My eyes were adjusting to the dark. Somewhere among them might be the planet where I lived now. The planet where I had once lived. The planet where someone important to me was still alive. If I used my goggles, I could identify them exactly. But I did not feel the need. I sat there in the dark with my knees drawn close. Without moving, I felt the outline of my body begin to loosen slightly against the night. For a long time, I stayed there looking up at the sky.